stop whatever you're doing. Turn off your notifications, shut the door, and listen, because something unreal is happening right now, and it's about to change everything you thought you knew about professional football. This is not a story about X's and O's. This isn't some preseason rumor or a player throwing a sideline tantrum. This is a quarterback walking into the owner's office and dropping a nuclear ultimatum: either fire the head coach or trade the franchise's future. And here's the part no one saw coming. He just might get what he wants before he ever plays a single real NFL game. It started as a whisper, the kind of rumor that spreads through locker rooms and front offices from coast to coast. Something was off in Cleveland. Executives around the NFL were getting nervous. GMs were texting each other. Agents were making quiet calls. And then it hit. According to multiple sources close to the situation, Deion Sanders, a rookie quarterback, walked into a private meeting with Browns owner Jimmy Haslam and dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the entire league. The message? As long as Kevin Stefanski is the head coach of this franchise, I won't be your quarterback. Not in public. Not through a tweet. Not via a passive-aggressive press conference. Directly to the owner, behind closed doors. No ultimatums leaked to the media. No agent stunts or sideline theatrics. This was different because this was calculated. And that's what turned a simple conflict into a 5-alarm fire inside Cleveland's front office. This wasn't about playing time. It wasn't about being passed over on the depth chart. It was something much more dangerous. A power shift. One that challenged the core identity of everything the NFL stands for: a rookie player directly demanding the removal of a head coach without ever playing a regular season snap. But the story doesn't stop there, because what came next wasn't just emotional, it was surgical. He didn't just make a threat, he built a case. To understand how Cleveland got here dangling between mutiny and meltdown, you need to rewind the clock just 3 weeks. That's when everything changed. It was the final preseason game. Stakes were high, but not for Deion Sanders, at least not publicly. He had been lighting up practices. Insiders called his week leading up to that game flawless. Coaches, silent. Media, buzzing. Fans, begging to see more. And then, the benching. Out of nowhere, head coach Kevin Stefanski made what many inside the building now call the worst decision of his career. He benched the rookie during the entire preseason finale. No warning, no explanation, just sidelined. Officially, Stefanski cited developmental priorities and a broader evaluation strategy. But sources close to the situation say it was something far more desperate. Behind the scenes, the coaching staff saw the writing on the wall, the chants, the hashtags, the hype. Our number Shedeur was trending in Cleveland before he even took the field. And that terrified them. They saw their authority slipping. A rookie was becoming the strongest gravitational force in the organization, so they tried to squash it. They benched him in what felt like a public message: "You're still a rookie, we're still in charge." Big mistake. Because that moment, that one snap decision to flex control set off a chain reaction the coaching staff could never undo. Publicly, Shedeur showed nothing. He played the part with total poise, delivering press-friendly cliches like trusting the process and just staying ready. But behind the scenes, a volcano was building. His inner circle, from elite marketing reps to corporate advisors and even legal partners, started meeting daily. They weren't talking about minutes or playbooks. They were talking about leverage. And when they used the phrase that keeps surfacing again and again across league insiders, nuclear option, nobody understood at first. But they do now. Because Deion Sanders didn't want to be developed. He wanted to take control. And he had the tools to do it. It happened in silence. No press releases. No leaks. No appearances on the facility cameras. But insiders say it was the meeting that altered the future of the Cleveland Browns, and maybe even the entire NFL. A top-secret conversation held deep inside team owner Jimmy Haslam's personal office suite. Mahogany walls. Frosted glass. No coaches. No general managers. No football personnel anywhere in sight. Just 4 men. Jimmy Haslam, billionaire team owner. Deion Sanders, 23-year-old rookie quarterback. Brandon Brown, his high-stakes super agent. And seated quietly in the corner, a senior executive from Nike. Let that sink in. One of the largest athletic brands on the planet walked into a meeting that would decide the fate of an NFL coaching staff. And guess who wasn't invited? Kevin Stefanski. Offensive Coordinator Alex Van Pelt, General Manager Andrew Barry. The entire football operations department was left completely in the dark. This wasn't a strategy session. This was a declaration of war. And what happened in that room is, according to every source who's heard the details, absolutely unprecedented. What the rookie delivered wasn't emotion, it wasn't anger, there was no yelling, no tantrums. What Deion Sanders presented was a PowerPoint. Yes, a PowerPoint. Pages and pages of hard data, economic metrics, TV ratings, brand valuations, all pointing to a single brutal truth. Shedeur Sanders is more economically valuable to the Cleveland Browns than Kevin Stefanski. And keeping the coach means risking everything. One prepared insider described it as calculated and terrifying. Another said it wasn't a tantrum, it was a takeover. This was a rookie quarterback walking into the owner's office with corporate backing and issuing a calm strategic ultimatum. Fire the coach or risk everything you've built. And the most mind-blowing part? He wasn't bluffing. This wasn't a threat. It was a presentation. Slide by slide, Shedeur Sanders laid out what may go down as one of the boldest moves in sports history, a rookie quarterback presenting a comprehensive business justification for firing his head coach. Not because of play calls, not because of personality clashes, because keeping the coach was no longer profitable. According to multiple insiders familiar with the contents of the meeting, Sanders rolled out Nielsen TV ratings showing explosive spikes during the exact quarters he was on the field, and steep drop-offs when he was benched. Social media analytics where posts featuring his name outperformed the entire Browns franchise content combined. Merchandise sales projections based on early trends, jerseys, cleats, and branded fan gear all tied to his visibility on the field. Ticket sales data showing a direct correlation between fan attendance interest and his rise in headlines. And then came Nike's role. The executive didn't say much. He didn't need to. He backed up every slide with corporate projections' 9-figure valuation estimates tied to Shedeur's face being synonymous with the Cleveland Browns brand. Let him shine, and we elevate the franchise. Keep him sidelined, and we rethink the investment. That wasn't a warning. It was a quiet, veiled threat, politely delivered, and brutally clear. One source, with direct knowledge of the meeting, put it even colder. They showed Haslam that Shedeur Sanders is a more valuable asset than Kevin Stefanski by every measurable metric: audience size, revenue potential, fan engagement, partnership strength. All of it. He walked in as a quarterback. He left as the CEO of the Browns brand future. Think about that. Rookie quarterbacks used to carry veterans' pads, sit quietly in meetings, speak when spoken to. Sanders walked into ownership, backed by a corporate giant, and calmly laid out the business case for a coaching termination. No cussing, no cameras, no shows. Just metrics, money, and leverage. And what makes this all so chilling? It worked. Or at the very least, it can't be ignored. Because unlike a trade request or a media outburst, this wasn't just about playing time. This reshaped what power looks like in the modern NFL. Not muscle, not seniority, data, dollars, demand. And Kevin Stefanski never saw it coming. The corporate meeting may have been silent, but what followed was anything but. Within 90 minutes of the first cryptic tweet leaking the news, a vague post from a well-connected NFL insider saying simply, "Major internal shift brewing in Cleveland? Not coach-led." Social media detonated. Hashtags exploded. Number fire Stefanski shot to the #1 national trend with over 400,000 mentions in under 4 hours. Number Shedeur took the 2 spot, climbing even faster by the end of the night. And number Browns in chaos? That one spread like wildfire, fueled by fans who didn't just believe the rumors. They wanted them to be true. It wasn't just memes and hot takes. It was warfare, digital, creative, and savage. Fan-made compilations began surfacing within hours, edited highlight reels showing Shedeur carving up preseason defenses, paired against agonizing clips of Stefanski's run-pass-punt offense. The contrast was brutal. Juxtaposed captions screamed, "We are not losing the future over a play sheet from 2009. This man's been here 3 seasons and still calls 3 RD and 1-2 draw plays." If Nike walks, we lose more than just a player, we lose relevance. It wasn't just content, it was culture. You could feel the generational split forming in real time. The old guard, the football purists, were horrified. One viral Reddit comment summed them up perfectly. "This is everything wrong with modern sports. Since when do rookies fire coaches? Send him to the bench and call his bluff. But that voice? It was getting drowned out. Because the next generation fan base, younger, louder, digitally fluent, responded with equal fury. Player brands are the business now. Shedeur is the offense. He's the reason people care about the Browns again. Coaching hierarchies don't sell jerseys. He does. And that data? It backed them up. According to social metrics, over 73% of Shedeur's Instagram audience is under 34. These aren't just fans, these are consumers. They buy the tickets. They subscribe to Game Pass. They wear the jackets. And they don't remember the Browns' glory years because, frankly, those years never existed. To them, there's no sense of loyalty to how things used to be. There's no nostalgia to protect. They want one thing: electricity, a reason to care, a future. From their perspective, Stefanski represents boring. Shedeur represents hope. And that battle wasn't limited to Twitter threads and YouTube shorts. It made it to live television. If the online explosion felt intense, broadcast media made it feel biblical. ESPN didn't waste a second. Within hours, the top of every major show pivoted completely. First Take opened not with Super Bowl predictions or injury reports, but with Deion Sanders versus Kevin Stefanski like it was Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Enter Stephen A. Smith. Veins bulging, voice thundering, and theatrics turned up to 100, he roared what half the old-school football world had been thinking. A rookie quarterback does not walk in and dictate coaching changes. Ever. What precedent does this set? What kind of craziness is this? The inmates cannot run the DMN asylum. It was vintage Stephen A. Loud, unyielding, furious. But this time, something felt different. Not just because the internet rolled its eyes, but because for the first time in years, younger analysts on air pushed back hard. A rising commentator, barely 30, sharp, plugged in, loud in her own way, fired back live on national broadcast. Stephen A. lives in 1985. This is 2025. Players have the power now. Brands write the checks. Deion Sanders generates more revenue for the Cleveland Browns than Kevin Stefanski ever has. That's not a hot take. That's math. The debate flipped instantly, no longer about football. Now it was about business. And that's when everyone watching realized this wasn't just a quarterback controversy. This was a war between eras. Traditional media outlets, newspapers, legacy talk shows, syndicated radio rushed to defend Stefanski. They called Sanders entitled "spoiled," a product of media hype. But digital native creators? They did the opposite. Podcasts, YouTubers, TikTok showrunners all rallied behind Shedeur, posting clips titled, "Shedeur isn't arrogant, he's right. Why this rookie is smarter than half the NFL. The NFL's coaching dinosaur problem exposed." The sports world wasn't giving answers anymore. It was fracturing. Every show, every outlet, every fan was choosing a side, and the middle ground was disappearing. Some saw Shedeur as a visionary, a rare rookie elevating the league, holding coaches accountable. Others saw him as everything wrong with modern sports culture, disrespectful, unproven, and dangerous if rewarded. But in both camps, one thing was clear. This wasn't a dispute the media could just cover. It was a cultural reckoning, and it was getting louder by the hour. While hashtags exploded and media talking heads screamed over each other, one voice stayed painfully quiet. Kevin Stefanski. No interviews, no statements, no anonymous leaks from his camp. Just silence, the kind that only happens when a man realizes he may already be gone. Inside the Browns facility, the mood reportedly shifted fast. Executives were stunned. Coaches were rattled. And Stefanski? Sources described him as devastated, furious, and above all betrayed. Betrayed by a rookie he believed he was protecting. Betrayed by an ownership group that promised unity. And betrayed by a league that just changed the rules in real time. This wasn't just a power struggle. For him, it was personal. He helped bring Deion Sanders into the building. He signed off on the draft decision. He designed the system to give the rookie room to grow gradually. And when media pressure mounted, he played the long game, trying to shield a young star from expectations too big, too fast. And yet he was the one being pushed out. Privately, Stefanski's staff started whispering the uncomfortable truths they'd never say in front of a camera. Shedeur's highlights mostly came against second-string defenses. That flash, it's real. but it's raw and mostly untested. He's good, someday maybe great, but he ain't there yet. And when we coach him, he pushes back, not with shouting, not with attitude, but with a quiet, intellectual defiance. Film study corrections met with icy rebuttals, tactical breakdowns challenged like boardroom debates, strategic critiques pushed aside in favor of instinct. It was subtle, but corrosive. One veteran assistant reportedly told a friend, he thinks he's already a franchise quarterback because he grew up watching one. And the worst part? Even if it was true, even if Shedeur did pose real developmental challenges, none of it leaked to the media. Why? Because Sanders wasn't just playing football, he was playing chess with public perception. Every detail of his image, from press conferences to merch drops to workout clips, was curated, polished, and pushed through a well-oiled media machine. You don't get trending hashtags and record-breaking engagement by accident. That's professional PR. That's brand control. And Kevin Stefanski, no matter how good he was at scheming third-down defense reads or holding locker rooms together in chaos, wasn't built for this kind of war. He'd entered a conflict thinking it was about football, but football rules didn't apply anymore. This wasn't a quarterback battle. It had become a media war, a branding war, a cultural war. And when your enemy walks in with a PowerPoint and Nike in his corner, you're not just outcoached. You're outclassed. If you're Cleveland Browns owner Jimmy Haslam, nothing about this moment looks like a decision. This isn't just about two people. This is about two futures, and choosing one means destroying the other. Option A, fire Kevin Stefanski, cave to the pressure. Validate the idea that a 2-3-year-old quarterback with no NFL starts can walk in and erase a coach with a winning record and a Coach of the Year award. What does that say to your locker room? What does that say to the league? If you erase Stefanski because of one player, one brand, what serious coach is ever going to take your job again? Who wants to lead a team where schemes are approved by sneaker companies and playbooks live or die by Instagram engagement? The league's traditionalists are begging Haslam to hold the line to preserve the hierarchy. They say if he caves now, football dies a little. But then there's option B, stand by Stefanski, back your coach, tell the media, the fans, and especially Deion Sanders that the Browns still operate like a football team, not an endorsement platform. But if you do that, you risk losing everything. You risk a trade demand messy, public, and explosive. You risk losing Nike, not just a sponsor, but a strategic partner heavily invested in Sanders' visibility. That threat isn't hypothetical. An insider close to the situation reportedly said, if Stefanski stays and Shedeur walks or sits, Nike starts asking serious questions. They'll reevaluate every dollar, every commercial, every ad campaign tied to Cleveland. And that cascade could bankrupt more than hype. Reduced broadcast fees from networks that want stars, not dysfunction. Slashed jersey and ticket sales from a jaded fan base whose patience has already expired. A complete stall in long-term sponsorships and corporate partnerships. It's not just a coaching issue anymore. It's an economic one. A front office source told a reporter. We ran the numbers. Losing Sanders could cost the Browns 8-10x more than Stefanski's buyout. That's not media drama, that's real. And here's the deepest irony. None of this has happened after a losing streak, after a playoff collapse, after a scandal. It all began before a single real game was played. And now, Jimmy Haslam is staring down a no-win scenario that will haunt his ownership no matter what he chooses. Because once he picks, there's no going back. The old NFL was built on rules. The new NFL? Built on reach. And the entire league is watching in silence and in horror. Executives are calling this a tipping point, a reality check. One high-ranking GM put it perfectly, this isn't about Shedeur. He's not the problem. He's the proof that we've been building toward this collapse for a decade, and Cleveland just became the epicenter. While executives traded panicked phone calls and owners weighed billion-dollar consequences, something even more dangerous began bubbling beneath the surface. The locker room started to crack. NFL teams are built on two pillars, trust and hierarchy. Coach leads, veterans set tone, young guys earn their stripes. But this flipped everything. And almost overnight, the Browns' locker room split into two quiet factions, both frustrated, both convinced they're right, and neither willing to budge. On one side, the younger offensive core. These are the players who've grown up in the age of NIL deals, personal brands, viral clips, and off-the-field monetization. These are the guys who watched Shedeur rise through Instagram, YouTube, and branded documentaries before he ever stepped onto an NFL field. And they don't just respect him for it, they admire it. To them, this isn't an act of ego, it's bold leadership. It's a player refusing to be boxed in by outdated philosophies and conservative play calls. One young wide receiver reportedly said in frustration, "We're tired of protecting a system that's scared to throw deep. You got a Ferrari and you're afraid to leave the garage." They see Shedeur as a player who does what they wish they had the power to do, take control of their careers, not sit around waiting for a conservative system to develop them 5 years too late. More visibility for Sanders means more national games, more highlights, more endorsement looks for everyone. But the other side of the locker room? They're furious. Led largely by veterans, especially on defense, they've spent years fighting for discipline, accountability, and team culture. To them, this isn't business acumen, it's betrayal. A 2-3-year-old rookie just walked into the front office and tried to terminate a coach before he had taken a single regular season snap. One veteran Pro Bowl defender reportedly snapped to a staffer, "If we let one rookie take control, what's next?" Every player demanding coaches be fired the second they don't get their touches? This is supposed to be a team, not a media agency. And beneath that, anger is fear. Fear that everything they've fought to build respect, structure, identity is being dismantled behind closed doors. And worse, no one knows where the loyalty lines really lie anymore. Wide receivers dapping up Shedeur in meetings, while defensive linemen avoid eye contact. Players walking past each other in awkward silence, unsure who backs who. Coaches tiptoeing around a practice field that used to belong to them now dominated by swirling cameras, brand managers, and social media handlers. This goes beyond football. It's culture. Old world versus new world. Grinded out veterans versus monetized influencers. Meritocracy versus marketability. And in the center of the storm? A special teams coordinator, not a big name, not a headline guy, reportedly stood up during a heated coaches meeting and offered a rare moment of clarity. "We're all debating the wrong thing. We keep asking whether Shedeur deserves this power. Maybe the real question is, does Kevin Stefanski deserve to keep this job if the future of the franchise is fundamentally incompatible with his vision?" One voice, one question. And suddenly, the answer wasn't so easy anymore. While headlines obsessed over practice reps and locker room loyalty, the real engine behind this storm wasn't even inside the building. He didn't have to be. Because Coach Prime Deion Sanders hadn't posted a single tweet. He hadn't scheduled an interview. He hadn't said a word. And yet, his silence was louder than anything else. Sources say he didn't need to call his son's agent. He didn't need to contact media outlets. He didn't need to strong-arm the Browns behind closed doors. Because Deion's machine doesn't need permission to move. It's already running 24/7, fully automated. A brand empire operating on muscle memory. Well, Off Media produces video content faster than most teams schedule press conferences. Smack, the Sanders media agency, controls tone, optics, and exposure, with a level of polish most NFL players will never achieve. And the connections? The networks? The eyes? Already locked in. Every whisper of disrespect triggers a flood of content. Sympathetic interview clips. Old Prime quotes that just so happen to go viral at the right time. Epic cinematic training videos with moody lighting and dramatic push-ups over championship quotes. They never mention Stefanski by name. They don't have to. The audience connects the dots, and more importantly, they take sides. But Prime isn't even the most dangerous piece on this board. That would be Nike. Remember that silent executive sitting in Haslam's office? They didn't bang fists. They didn't shout demands. They brought numbers. They brought plans. Because Nike didn't sign Shedeur to a sneaker deal, they signed him to be a brand ecosystem, a youth football influencer, a signature cleat line already in early dev stages, of ready out of lash sheenit out of ready dud, of ready dot out of lash stages. A documentary series spanning college to pro. Apparel partnerships tied to regional fan bases. Exclusive digital content drops designed to piggyback off Brown's momentum. All of it? Dependent on one thing: visibility. And Stefanski's decision to bench that visibility wasn't seen as a coaching call. It was seen as brand sabotage. One marketing exec put it bluntly: "We didn't bet on a bench warmer." If the Browns turn him into a backup, they're not just sidelining a QB, they're devaluing a high 8-figure investment. And unlike fans, Nike doesn't post memes. They don't argue on Twitter. They call ownership. They recalibrate budgets. They cancel campaigns. Quietly. Now the Browns are facing an unthinkable reality. They're not just managing a quarterback, they're managing a corporation, a media engine, a cultural force driven by Deion's legacy, and a fan base that's turned on-demand entertainment into the currency of relevance. The NFL was never built for this. And Cleveland? Cleveland is finding out what happens when football decisions start getting made by marketing departments. For all the noise, the media drama, the locker room whispers, the branding wars, it eventually comes down to one thing: money. And this isn't just a quarterback controversy. It's a financial landmine. Because if the Cleveland Browns lose Shedeur Sanders either by trade demand, fan disapproval, or corporate fallout, they won't just lose a player. They could lose the entire future of their franchise value. Let's talk numbers. According to internal league documents reviewed by one business outlet, the Browns with Shedeur projection curve shows staggering vertical spikes. Local ticket demand was already up 22% just from preseason play. Merchandise tied to Sanders jerseys, hoodies, replica cleats was pulling in more sales online than any rookie in franchise history. Social media following jumped over 380,000 new followers in a span of 3 preseason weeks across platforms. And TV networks? One source says primetime schedulers were already exploring early season flex opportunities with the Browns on the sole condition that Sanders remained the starter. Now imagine all that gone. One top sports economist put it brutally: if Cleveland loses Shedeur now, the immediate loss isn't just in jersey sales or corporate partnerships. It's in relevance. You don't get those eyeballs back. You don't get that excitement twice. Worse, network executives have allegedly issued private concern memos to league office officials, warning that if star asset availability is dictated by behind-the-scenes rifts, broadcast value drops fast. And it doesn't stop at TV. Nike representatives have declined public comment, but insiders say their marketing division is already reviewing asset allocation across teams. Translation? If Cleveland sidelines their biggest star, Nike could spin future budget towards cities willing to center him. Other franchises, alternate campaigns. Everyone's watching and adjusting. And then there's the real dagger fan trust. Sanders brought hope to a franchise that's cycled through failure for over 2 decades. He made Browns fans believe again. Not because he's won anything, but because, for the first time in forever, he gave them a story worth caring about. Lose him not to injury, not to trade value, but to a culture clash, and you're not just losing games. You're risking a complete collapse of relationship with the next generation of fans. As one Browns season ticket holder, a father of 3, wrote in a now viral post, "My kids don't care about tough decision-making in the front office. They care about #5 throwing bombs and dancing in the end zone. You bench that, we're done renewing." And when fans walk and sponsors flinch and networks pull back, no amount of play-action bootlegs can fix that. Which is why Jimmy Haslam's choice isn't really a choice at all anymore. It's a cost-benefit crisis. And corporate math doesn't lie. Firing Stefanski may look like weakness in a headline, but losing Shedeur? That's a billion-dollar mistake with no coming back. When the dust finally settles, it won't just be the Browns who are changed. It'll be the entire league. Because what happens next in Cleveland isn't simply about one coach or one quarterback. This is about what the NFL becomes in the next decade. As of now, Jimmy Haslam has reportedly paused all official moves. He's held emergency executive meetings. He's spoken privately with league officials. He's reviewing coaching contracts, marketing obligations, and legal implications that weren't even standard scenarios a few years ago. Why? Because this situation is so unprecedented, there is no playbook. There are 2 roads forward, both costly, both defining. Option 1. Fire Kevin Stefanski. Call it what it is, a retreat. Bowing to a rookie quarterback who became more influential off the field than he was on it. Fire Stefanski, and you send a very clear message. Coaches don't run this league anymore. Star players and their sponsors do. The risk? You undermine every traditional power structure in professional football. You turn the NFL into what old-school purists fear most, a player-driven marketplace where influence eats authority alive. And for Haslam, there's the long-term consequence. What coach wants Cleveland now? Who's signing on to lead a locker room where they're one disagreement away from being erased by Nike spreadsheets and social media metrics? Option 2. Back Stefanski. Tell Shedeur to fall in line. Tell the media to chill. Tell the fans, in essence, this is still a football team, not a marketing firm in shoulder pads. But the fallout? That's not theoretical, it's immediate. Sanders has the power and reportedly, the legal teams and sponsorship pressure to force a trade demand within days. And if that happens, everything changes. Nike walks. Fond riot. Media floods backlash content. Network contracts shake. The Browns become a punchline again. Except this time, they're not losing because of bad draft picks or missed field goals. They're losing because their entire identity collapsed under the weight of evolution. But here's the truth, no one wants to say out loud. This was always going to happen. The NBA went through it with Jordan, then with LeBron. And now the NFL, long held together by force of will coaches and tight salary caps, is entering a new era. An era where quarterbacks don't just touch the ball every play. They own the entire narrative. An era where brand leverage is play-calling power. Where endorsement impact outweighs yards per carry. And where the greatest threat to a head coach's job might not be a losing season. It might just be a camera crew and a calculated presentation. And so here we are. A rookie with one of the biggest endorsement portfolios in league history hasn't played a regular season snap, and he might just force out a head coach who did everything right except keep up with the times. The only person who decides? Jimmy Haslam. And when he does, the ripple won't stop in Cleveland. Because after this, every owner will have a new question to ask. Do we employ athletes? Or do we partner with brands? That philosophical question? That's the future of sports. The NFL just became the test case, and the Browns became the battlefield. So now the question shifts to you. Is Deion Sanders a revolutionary? Or a reckless rookie with too much power? Is Kevin Stefanski getting robbed? Or just resisting a change that was always coming? And most importantly, if you were Jimmy Haslam, what would you do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on those notifs, because when the next bombshell drops, you'll want to be the first to know.